Hello, episode 4, and I've made some mistakes. So I've done the item stacking codes, but for some weird reason the video file's corrupt, so I can't actually upload that at all or do anything with it. I can't edit it, which might be for the best because I spent hours on this, made lots of mistakes, had to rewrite lots of things. So I could probably go through it a lot easier without actually going through the code as I'm doing it. So I'll just show you the code that I've done. In the meantime, there was one thing that I'd done without recording anyway, and I'll show you that now. So I was sick of looking at the ugly inventory we had, and I thought I'd make it a bit prettier. So none of this is complicated. I'm not going to go through everything I've done to make it look like this. It's a matter of moving things around, changing colours. I imported a font. There's a background blur panel within the widgets as well, which has made this background nice and blurry, so it makes this UI like properly pop. Then other than that, I've got the description down here, so click on that. The description within the item struct is just bound to a text there. And then on these buttons here, I've bound what the next page is going to be, so you know where you're going. So it's all pretty straightforward. If anyone wants a little bit more information on what I did here, then ask in the comments, and I'll make a little video on it. But it's nothing complicated, and I didn't bother recording it because it would have been very dull watching me just move a bunch of boxes around and change colours of things. So functionality from the last video all still works. We can still drop things and still pick up things. And there we go. New stuff. These things over here are quite obviously arrows. I promise you. We can pick a load up. I've put them as stacks of 5. We go to ammo, and we can see we've got 30 arrows we just picked up. So we can drop them, and we get this nice little slider. So we know how much we're dropping. We don't have to drop full stacks all the time. We can drop whatever we want. Or we can go to drop and drop all. It gets rid of everything. Pick them back up, and hopefully there's going to be 30 there again. Yeah. So the code for all this isn't that complicated. It just took me a while to get my head around it all, really. So I'll go through what I've done and what I've changed now with you. Very first thing, in the pickup struct, we need to add 2 more variables. So is stackable as a boolean, and quantity. Then inside, go into the master pickup, we need to connect them back up. So these two, when you first create those in the pickup struct, won't be connected. So make sure you connect these back up and compile. Otherwise, none of this code is going to do anything at all. And then most of the work is within the inventory. One little change to the inventory item widget, just to get that number on so we know how many we're holding. I got a text block which is the name of the item. I've added another text block which is the number, and that is quite easily populated. So we just get the pickup struct, get the quantity out of it. Get the pickup struct and ask if it's a stackable item. If it is, we get the quantity and shove it in. If not, we just have an empty node, so there's no text there if it's not a stackable item. And I believe that's the only change to the inventory item widget. Inside our actual inventory widget, I've started commenting things and making things look a bit neater, just for my own sanity. So yeah, there's a lot more going on here than there was before. First of all, we'll go through the pickup section. So right off the bat, there's a change. There's a lot over here that's the same. This is like our normal pickup routine. So add to inventory. This is called from the character, the third person blueprint, as it was before. Nothing's changed there. But the first thing we do is break the pickup struct and check if it's a stackable item we're picking up. If it's not, it will follow this false, and then do everything the same as we normally do when we're picking something up. That hasn't changed, apart from we have a new variable. This variable is an inventory item array, so it's an array of these, the inventory item buttons, the things that appear in our inventory scroll boxes. And I'll show you why we have that now. So every time we add an item to the inventory, we add that to this array. So back to here, we add something to the inventory, we ask if it's stackable. If it is stackable, then we go up here and we get that array that's down here. And first thing we do, we check if there's anything in the array. So we look at the last index. If it's less than or equal to 0, then there is something. Less than or equal to 0, then there's nothing in the array. So it'll throw false, and then we go to add inventory normally, which is a custom event, which is just down here. It just fires our normal adding to inventory off. And that works with the stackable items. As long as the inventory was empty. If the first thing we pick up is a stackable item, then it just runs this and it goes in there perfectly fine. It will show the numbers and everything. If there is something in our inventory, then it will come at true, and then we need to check our inventory array to check if we've got the same item in there already. So if we're picking up arrows, this will check every item in the inventory to see if there's another stack of arrows in there. And the way it does this is there's our inventory array, everything that's in there. For each thing in there, it will check its name. So it gets the struct, breaks the struct, and checks if its name is equal to the thing we're picking up. This might not be the best way to do it, because if I accidentally put two things in with the same name, things are going to get complicated. So it might be worth doing it for this class reference instead. But for now, this works perfect. So yeah, we check everything in the inventory, we get its name, and check if it's got the same name as the thing we're picking up. If it has, then this will stop this loop from happening anymore. It'll stop where it is. So the last item that it's picked up or looked at will be the same as the item we're picking up. And then it will run this. And what this is, this decides, are we going to stack on something or are we not? So if it's found the same item, it will ring true. And we set the item's pickup struct, the item that's within our inventory. So we take the quantity from the item we're picking up, and we add it to the quantity of the item that's in our inventory. And we set that pickup struct then in our inventory. So it's added the two quantities together, put in our inventory. And then we go down here and destroy the actor from the world and empty the actor to pick up variable. So yeah, quick recap, we pick it up, we check if there's anything in the inventory. If there is, then we check if we've got the same items in the inventory. We add the two quantities together, set the variable in our inventory, and destroy the actor from the world. So I'm going to just zoom in a little bit. So if anyone wants to pause and have a look at what I've done, you can. I know the wires are all over the place, but hopefully you can pause and make some sense of this. This part, I'll get it in view anyway, but this part, the only change is this bit here. That's the only bit you need to add to this. This is our normal pickup routine. Then, if it has found something in our inventory, but it scrolls through everything and finds that we don't actually have the arrows in our inventory, for instance, then this will ring false, and so will this, and then we'll just add inventory normally again. So that's everything to pick up. That's all the same. Nothing's changed. Then the dropping. This took me a while. So first of all, you saw the drop slider that I created. So it's a new widget, a drop slider. It's 3 buttons, 3 bits of text on the buttons, 2 text blocks either side. So this will be the number that's in your inventory. This will be the number that you drop in. Excuse me. And then we have a slider in the middle. For this, make sure you select mouse uses step on there, because this slider is not an integer, it's a float value, so you will end up kind of selecting 1.3 and 1.68 and things like that. So if you mouse a step, then it will start selecting integers for you. In the graph, go through that graph in a second, because first we do need to go through the dropping in inventory. So this is our drop button within our inventory, not on the slider thing. So when we drop, we check first if there's an inventory item selected, so the invalid check. Then we're checking if it's a stackable item. And if it's not a stackable item, we remove it. We remove it as we would normally. None of this has changed from the last episode. If it is a stackable item, this fires. And what we do, we create the drop slider widget. Inside the drop slider widget is a reference to this widget that we're in now. So we set that variable. We add it to viewport so we can see it, along with the visibility. So that creates that pop-up with the slider on for us. Then the slider will do some things which will come back to here. So we'll go into the slider now. So once it's created, this happens first. It'll set a minimum value. I don't need this, I don't think, because the minimum value by default is 0. But we have to set the maximum value of the slider, otherwise we'll be able to drop more than we actually have in our inventory. Maximum value is quite simple. We get the inventory item selected and throw the quantity in there. We don't want to be able to have a maximum value any higher than what we've got in our inventory. Then we've got 3 buttons. We've got a drop button, we've got a drop all button, and we've got a cancel button. And I managed to get them all on the same bit of code here, which is quite neat. So first of all, when we click drop, what do we want to do? We want to see if the slider value, so this is our slider, pull it out from here, get the value of that slider, so whatever we've slid it to, whatever we set it to, is that slider value equal to 0? And if it is equal to 0, we don't do anything. It just goes up here and sets the visibility of the slider to collapsed. Because if we set that slider to 0 and we've clicked this button, the drop button, then we're not actually dropping anything. So that's the first little check out the way with. If the slider value isn't 0, we'll fire false. So the next thing we need to check is the slider value equal to the quantity in our inventory. So if we've got 10 arrows in our inventory and the slider value is set to 10, then we're dropping the entire stack. And if it is, then it fires the true, which is a custom event that's back in our inventory widget. So drop entire stack. If the slider value is not the same as the quantity in our inventory, it'll go false. So then we set a variable that we've got in our inventory widget. It's an integer variable, which is just drop quantity. And then we fire a different custom event called drop partial stack. And that's back in our inventory as well. So I'll show you where they are and what they do now. Everything here all goes back to setting the visibility of the slider to collapsed. So it disappears after you've pressed any of these buttons. So let's look at where these custom events go now. Back in the inventory. So removing we'll do entire stacks first. This one's a little bit more simple, I believe. So if we've clicked drop all, or our slider is equal to the amount that's in our inventory, we're going to drop the whole stack. So we're going to get the info we need. We're going to spawn an arrow in the world at our normal location, which is our drop location. Then we need to set its pickup struct variable. I try to avoid doing this, but it turns out that I've done it a few times. It's something I'm going to try and work around or think of some fix for. But right now, if we add anything to our pickup struct, we're going to have to find everywhere where we're setting the pickup struct like this and join all the new lines together. So I will try and think of something to fix this problem, but for now this is working. So yeah, we're dropping the entire stack. We're going to spawn the actor in the world. We're going to set its pickup struct. Pretty much everything is set the same. Like there's no difference. It's what it already had, the information-wise. The only change is the quantity. So we get the quantity from the inventory item selected, and we set that in the pickup struct for the item that we're spawning in the world. We remove the inventory item from the inventory widget, so the button disappears. We also remove that item from the array, so when we're searching that array, it won't be there. And then we set the drop quantity to 0 and the inventory item selected to 0 as well. So I'll go slowly across this so you can pause if need be. Right, removing partial stacks. I put that it's got a glitch there, but it's actually not glitching anymore. I fixed that. So a partial stack. So this is when we drop, say, 5 items out of 10 that's in our inventory. We're still going to need to spawn actor because we're going to be dropping something off the floor. So we get our item struct, we spawn that actor, and we set the pickup struct of the item in our inventory because that's going to stay. We're still going to keep an item within our inventory. So we get the drop quantity, and we take that away from the quantity that's in our inventory, and then we set it. So whatever we decided to drop, if we're dropping 5, we're going to take that away from the overall quantity that's in our inventory, set the and the remainder we're going to set, and that'll tell us what we've got left in our inventory. Then the new actor that we're dropping on the floor, we're going to spawn that at our normal drop location, and then we're going to set their pickup struct, and that's easy. That is just the drop quantity. And there it is set, and then again we're going to empty the inventory item selected and empty the drop quantity. And that is it. So, and removing non-stackable, that's the same remove that we set up before. Again, the only change is we are removing the inventory item array part. That's the new inventory array where we're storing all inventory parts. I'll give you one more quick demonstration. Hope it works now. So there we are, arrows, drop, we've got the slider. Yep, flawlessly. So next episode, this next episode isn't strictly speaking an inventory episode. What I want to do is I want to be able to highlight interactable items. So this thing, when I'm looking at it, I want to like a glowing outline of some kind, and these things as well. And I say it's not strictly inventory because I'll be using the master interactable blueprint to do this. So anything we can interact with when we're looking at it will glow. We'll have some sort of outline around there, just so it's obvious that we can interact with it. And it's also obvious then we are looking at it, so we know where we're aiming. And that'll go for every interactable. So switches, doors, any item we can pick up, anything like that as well. So that's what I'll be working on for the next episode. Any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll try and answer them. Thank you. Bye.